So there's kind of an important issue in crypto right now, and are crypto firms overvalued? We're not talking about the coins themselves, although I can think of plenty that are overvalued. But the crypto companies behind them, are they overvalued? Because there are reports saying that the demands of the revenue to valuation ratio is scaring a lot of venture capitalists off. And crypto companies that aren't ready for the IPO, like Circle or something, do actually need to secure funds to keep growing. But if their valuation is too high, then the VC will say that, it's too hard for us to see a decent ROI for our investors if we dump money in your company at this valuation, and they could actually get rejected. A lot of these firms are asking for a ratio of 80 revenue to valuation, and that is extremely high for any industry. I'm not talking about like well-established companies. We're talking about startups. For instance, Circle, which is in the crypto field, has about $1.6 billion worth of revenue this year, and Ripple offered to buy them for $5 billion, which they actually refused. But if you took an 80x valuation of that, they'd be worth well over $100 billion. And no one actually thinks they're worth over $100 billion. Plus, you have to take into account of Circle's dominance within the industry and how much that's worth in itself, and how many companies might actually be desperate to actually buy Circle because of their dominance in the industry. So there's a lot to actually work with there. These are also like companies that aren't as proven as Circle, maybe with more potential, but definitely not as proven as Circle, maybe like in the $40-50 million range. And they're asking for sky high valuations from VCs, which may prevent the growth of crypto as an industry. Because these small companies, we need more of them to start up to provide crypto services. But if they're asking for super high valuations, most of them are going to die. I mean, most of them are probably going to die anyways, but more of them will not succeed because they can't get funding. That's another thing. Crypto startups are very, very risky, and they die more often than most startups. Now, because it's a fast-growing industry, the valuation is going to be more speculative, but asking for 80x is still a little bit way too high. For instance, like generally something like 2 to 3x for like a traditional industry would be like a revenue to valuation ratio. In a speculative industry, like tech or crypto, maybe 10 to 12x. That would be a fairly good valuation. And once again, Circle with $1.6 billion, that would put it somewhere between 16 and like $20 billion or something like that, which obviously is still very, very much overpriced for Circle based on Ripple's first offer. Now, there are some rumors that have not been confirmed and are probably fake that Ripple offered $20 billion afterwards, but I think that's false because I don't think Ripple One has that much money on hand. Most of their money is tied up in their XRP escrow, and that would be, as many would say it, a gross overvaluation, and they probably would not do that. Although they might think it's worth it because the dominance they could achieve in the stablecoin market. When you don't have that dominance you could achieve in the stablecoin market for most of these startups, then you kind of have to take that part of the value out and just go on the ratio valuation, which they're asking for far too much. And like I said, this might be an impediment to actually the crypto industry growing some more, because these companies just can't get funding, and it's a lot of what could have been had we asked for less money. Obviously, CEOs of these companies are greedy. They want the highest valuation possible. And after you get that first valuation really high, it's very hard to come down from it, because then the investors that you have probably won't agree to a lower valuation, because essentially then they'd be losing their money. And a lot of these companies do not actually have net profit, and they're going to be speculated for many years that they're not going to actually turn a profit unless something changes. They might have revenue, but their costs could actually be pretty tremendous. And we all know how many crypto projects are scams. So obviously VCs are going to be weary of that as well, especially if your crypto project involves its own coin. Basically, they're complaining that for some reason, founders and CEOs think that they should be raising capital at 50 to 80 times revenue, so that makes it very hard for us, the VCs, to make a return for our liquidity providers. Tapiro said, speaking in a panel discussion at the Consensus Conference in Toronto on May 14th. And like I said, 50 to 80 for like small startup companies is pretty insane. So they actually get passed on automatically. And they're kind of like looking for companies that are more in the 10x range, or like a valuation to revenue ratio of 10x or less. And it's getting harder to find those companies because a lot of these CEOs think that we're in crypto, we can just ask for sky high valuations. And I think that's where they actually fall apart. Once again, like I said, I think this is dangerous to the entire industry because, unrealistic valuations lead to not so many investments, and that could slow industry growth. But despite these comments, it appears that crypto startups have had some luck attracting VC funds, and that the total value of crypto venture capital deals rose over 100% quarter on quarter to 6 billion. So on the market right now, it seems like people are still very fascinated by these crypto startups, and they're getting some of these valuations. But I also think like many are actually getting rejected. I do think like some of these VCs will start to diversify their backs. I can't really see them actually making a huge and continuing to make a huge like high ROI for the liquidity providers if they're asking for 50 to 80 times revenue. And I do definitely think this is preventing from some would-be great companies from actually getting the funds to actually continue work and develop their products. So I think some of the crypto CEOs definitely should kind of like take back their valuation to a more realistic number and grow their company as they actually see fit. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Let me know if you think these companies are evaluating them too high at 50 to 80x and without maybe a product that's dominating the market. So that's it, and I will see you guys later.